Hello to all lovers of scary stories. Tonight, I have 5 chilling stories to share with you. As the rain falls softly outside, let these tales sink in and send shivers down your spine. For the best experience, please put your headphones on. Back to the video. I moved into Unit B7 of an aging apartment complex 2 towns over from where I grew up. Nothing fancy. A 1-bedroom, ground floor, paper-thin walls and stained ceilings. But the rent was cheap, and I needed space after my breakup. The complex was a horseshoe layout with a central courtyard. Most neighbors kept to themselves, though a few nodded politely. Only one door down across the courtyard never seemed to open. Unit B4. There were stories, of course. Old lady died in there. It's condemned. Belongs to some guy who only visits at night. I didn't care. I had a place, and I wanted to be left alone. Then the notes started showing up. The first one was under my doormat. Plain white paper, written in tiny, neat handwriting. You should close your blinds at night. I laughed at first. Thought it was a passive-aggressive neighbor annoyed I left my lights on too late. I threw it out. The next night, another note appeared. You looked sad eating dinner alone. This time, I felt it. That sudden, crawling feeling under your skin. I looked out the front window. Blinds closed. Still, I pulled them tighter, made sure nothing could be seen from outside. A few days passed with nothing. Then I came home from work to find my apartment unlocked. Nothing stolen, nothing moved, except one thing. On my kitchen table, a third note. I like the sound you make when you sleep. I went straight to the property manager. She was a middle-aged woman named Janet, constantly chewing gum and too distracted by whatever was on her phone to care. Someone broke into my apartment, I told her. She didn't even look up. That happens? I pushed the note in front of her. She squinted at it and shrugged. Probably kids. We had some squatters in the back building a few months ago. Do you have cameras? I asked. She sucked her teeth. Only fake ones. Budget cutbacks. Useless. I changed my locks that night. But the next morning, there was a note stuck to my bathroom mirror, inside the apartment. Locks don't keep me out. That's when I started watching. I bought a cheap camera, set it up facing the front door. I stayed up each night, eyes on the screen, waiting. Nothing. Until Friday night. 2:17 a.m. The doorknob turned. Not fast. Slow. Testing. It didn't open. I deadbolted it. Then, from the camera's audio, I heard something. A whisper. Just a few words. Almost too soft to catch. Are you watching me too? My blood turned to ice. The next morning, I watched the footage in full daylight, frame by frame, trying to see who it was. The camera showed the door handle turning, but no one was there. No shadow. No figure. Just the knob, moving on its own. I started sleeping with a knife next to the bed, stopped using the lights, ate canned food so I wouldn't have to leave, and still, the notes came. One was in my fridge, another tucked into my shoe. One night I woke up with a cramp in my leg. I stretched, turned on my phone flashlight, and saw a note on my pillow. You snore when you're scared. I threw up. I cried. I didn't sleep for 2 days. And every time I checked my camera, nothing. Desperate, I started asking around the complex. An old man who walked his dog twice a day said, "You're in B7, huh? That's next to B4. You seen the guy in there?" "No," I said. "Isn't it vacant?" He gave me a strange look. "Not at night it isn't." "What do you mean?" He looked around and leaned closer. "Lights come on after midnight. Never see who's inside. Curtains don't move. But the lights always flick on when you go to bed. That night, I stayed up. At exactly 12:03 a.m., the living room light in B4 came on. Curtains stayed shut. No movement, just a warm yellow glow spilling out from behind the fabric. I watched for hours. At 3:14 a.m., the light turned off. 5 minutes later, another note slid under my door. You looked right at me. I bought blackout curtains the next day, covered every window, taped them shut, put salt by the door like I saw in some forum. Nothing helped. I tried sleeping with the TV on. Didn't matter. The notes kept coming. And they got more personal. Your mom used to braid your hair like that. You miss her, don't you? Why did you take the pills last year? I never told anyone about that. No one should have known. One night, I snapped. I ran across the courtyard to B4 and banged on the door. No answer. I pounded harder, screamed, cursed. Then the door opened. Just an inch, inside, total darkness. I stepped back. A voice whispered from inside. Calm. Clear. Now you've invited me. The door slammed shut. I ran back to my unit and called 911. They came, knocked, no answer, broke the door down. The apartment was empty, covered in dust. No furniture, no lights, no power. No one had lived there in years. But in the center of the floor was a pile of paper. Hundreds of notes, all in the same handwriting. Most were blank, except for the one on top. Thank you. The cops told me it was probably a squatter or a sick prank, that I was lucky nothing worse had happened. I moved out that same week, left everything behind. But last night in my new apartment 2 cities away, I woke up to find something on my pillow. A plain white note. Same tiny handwriting. I like your new place. I don't know why I feel the need to write this down. Maybe to warn someone. Maybe just to make sense of what happened. Either way, if you're reading this, take it seriously. Some places, they don't let you leave unchanged. It started when I checked into the Larkspur Inn, a forgotten little motel off Highway 9. I was supposed to be visiting my sister in the next town over, but my car had other plans. Engine gave out just as the sun dipped below the tree line. I coasted into the motel's gravel lot on what felt like fumes and frustration. It was quiet. No cars, no voices, just the buzz of a flickering neon sign that read, "Vacancy." The front office was manned by an old man with silver hair combed back so tight it looked painful. He didn't speak when I walked in, just stared at me with gray, milky eyes and eventually slid a key across the counter. The tag read, Room 313. Weird number for a single-story roadside motel, right? I asked, aren't most motels single level? What's with the 300 numbered rooms? He didn't respond. Just gave me the kind of look that makes you feel smaller than you are. Whatever, I was too tired to argue. I grabbed the key, left a credit card number, and headed toward the far end of the lot. Room 313 sat at the very edge of the building, past a crooked vending machine and beneath a single dim light that buzzed like a trapped fly. The door was dark green, cracked paint around the frame. The key stuck in the lock at first, but I forced it and stepped inside. The room was colder than it should have been. It looked like any other cheap motel room. 2 lamps, queen bed with a scratchy blanket, a boxy old TV on a dresser, and a bathroom that smelled faintly of mildew. But it felt wrong. Like I was being watched, even though I was alone. Still, I was exhausted. I left my duffel bag by the bed, took a quick shower, and collapsed without bothering to turn off the TV. Static played in the background as I drifted off. That night, I had the first dream. In it, I was lying in the motel bed, just like real life. But the room was completely dark, except for a soft red glow coming from the crack under the bathroom door. I couldn't move. Couldn't speak. I just lay there, frozen, as something dragged itself out of the bathroom. It didn't walk. It crawled. Slowly, deliberately. I never saw its full face, just limbs. Long, jointed, wrong, pale like something drained of blood, and eyes. Hollow, empty, but locked on me. When it reached the edge of the bed, it started to climb. That's when I woke up, gasping, drenched in sweat, heart trying to escape my chest. The TV was off. I didn't turn it off. And the bathroom door was slightly open. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I asked the front desk guy if there was another room I could take. He didn't answer. Didn't even look up. I said, "Seriously, I'll pay extra. That room's got some bad energy, man." Nothing. I considered leaving, calling a tow, anything, but my phone had zero service and there was no Wi-Fi. The whole town felt like it had dropped off the grid. Even the gas station across the road was boarded up. Against my better judgment, I stayed another night. The second dream was worse. This time, the room wasn't just dark, it was decayed. Walls peeling, mold in the corners, furniture rotten. The bathroom door was wide open, but the red glow was stronger. I sat up in bed in the dream. That was new. And I could hear breathing. Not mine. Deep, rattling breaths, slow and wet. I looked toward the bathroom, and there it was again, that thing. But now I saw more of it. Its body was human-shaped, but off, like someone tried to reconstruct a person using wax and half-remembered anatomy. Its jaw hung loose, and it whispered, "You shouldn't be here." I woke up with a start. Except I didn't. Not really. I woke up in the same position, in bed, in the motel, in real life, but everything was still dark. No light from the window, no sounds outside, and I couldn't move. I was paralyzed. That's when I felt the weight, the pressure at the foot of the bed. Something was climbing up. It whispered again, this time in my ear, "You saw me. Now you stay." When I finally regained control of my body, I sat up and screamed. The room was empty. But the window had fogged up from the inside, and something had drawn a symbol in the condensation. I didn't recognize it, but it looked old, ancient. I packed my bag immediately and bolted out of room 313. As I crossed the lot in the early morning fog, I turned back. There were no numbers on the door. Room 313 wasn't labeled anymore. Back at the front desk, I demanded to speak to someone in charge. The man was gone. The office was empty, like it hadn't been used in years. Cobwebs, dust, a half-melted candle on the counter. I ran to my car, tried to start it. Nothing. Battery was dead. So I walked. 6 miles down the highway before a trucker finally picked me up. Here's the part that'll make you think I'm crazy. 2 days later, when I finally got back home, I looked up the Larkspur Inn. It burned down in 1998. No survivors. The article mentioned faulty wiring, a late-night fire, and one peculiar detail. The fire started in room 313, a room that had been closed off since the 1970s after a string of disappearances. I checked my duffel bag. Inside, on top of my clothes, was the room key. Brass, cold. And on the tag, scrawled in fresh marker, "You came back." I used to work overnight shifts at a small-town radio station in Pennsylvania. The kind of place where only truckers, insomniacs, and the occasional conspiracy theorist still listened in after midnight. One night, just after 2 a.m., the main phone line started ringing. It never rang at that hour. I answered and heard only static. Then, faintly, someone whispered, "Don't let the silence in." I hung up, thinking it was a prank. But then, the static began bleeding into the live feed. I turned all the knobs down, everything should have been silent, but the static didn't stop. And in it, something began to speak. I swear to you, it was speaking my name, slowly, deliberately. "Did I tore off my headphones. The sound was still there. It wasn't coming from the equipment, it was in the room. The lights flickered. I looked into the glass of the sound booth and I saw someone standing behind me. I turned around. No one. I looked back at the glass. He was still there. He hadn't moved. I grabbed my bag, bolted out, and left the station in the middle of the broadcast. My boss called the next morning, furious, but I refused to go back. They found my replacement the following week. On his second night, he vanished, left everything behind. Police said there were no signs of struggle. But the final transmission, it was broadcast for 5 hours straight, just static. But in the background, very faint, a voice kept saying, "Let me in." I moved into an old apartment building in Chicago last year, 3rd floor. Cheap rent, creaky floors, but nothing unusual. Except for one thing. There was a door in the hallway between my kitchen and the bathroom. No doorknob, no hinges. Just sealed into the wall like it had been painted over long ago. I ignored it for months. But sometimes at night, I'd hear sounds from behind it. Like breathing. Slow. Shallow. Steady. I chalked it up to bad plumbing or the neighbors next door, until one night I came home from work and found the door open. It had a doorknob now. Inside was a narrow staircase going down. I should have called someone. I should have left, but curiosity got the better of me. I took my phone, turned on the flashlight, and went down the stairs. It didn't lead to another apartment. It didn't lead to the basement. It led to a room. Stone walls, dirt floor, and a single wooden chair in the center. A woman sat there. Pale skin, black eyes, long wet hair. She didn't move, didn't blink, just stared at me. Then she said, "He built this room to trap me. Now he's gone. Someone must take his place." I turned to run, but the stairs were gone, just a wall behind me. I don't know how long I was down there. Eventually I found the stairs again and ran out. The door was gone, just sealed back into the wall. I moved out the next day. But I still see her sometimes. In mirrors, in the corners of rooms. Watching. Waiting. For someone else to open the door. I was 16 when I started babysitting for the Mendez family. Their house was on the edge of town. Big, quiet, kind of isolated. They had a 5-year-old boy named Luca. Sweet kid, but he had night terrors. Mrs. Mendez told me if he started screaming, just sit with him until he calmed down. Don't ask him questions. Just wait. The first night was normal. I read, watched TV. Luca went to bed fine. Then, around 11:45, I heard him screaming. Not crying, screaming. I ran upstairs and found him curled in the corner of the room, facing the wall. When I touched him, he flinched and said, "Don't let him see you." I asked who he meant. Luca just whispered, "The mirror man." There was a mirror above his dresser. Nothing unusual. But when I looked into it, something was wrong. My reflection didn't move right. It was just a little off, a second too slow. Then it smiled at me before I did. I covered the mirror with a towel and stayed with Luca until he fell asleep. The next week, I babysat again. Around the same time, 11:45, Luca started screaming. This time, when I got there, he was pointing at the mirror. The towel was on the floor. There was a handprint on the glass from the inside. I told the Mendezes I wouldn't babysit again. They seemed unsurprised. Mr. Mendez just nodded and said, "He's taken a liking to you. Don't speak his name." I blocked their number, moved on. A few weeks ago, I saw Luca's name in the news. Missing, no forced entry, just disappeared from his room. But in the photo of his bedroom on the police report, the mirror is uncovered, and in the corner of the reflection, there's a figure standing behind the camera, and it's smiling.